You're listening to Psych with Mike. For more episodes or to connect with the show with comments, ideas, or to be a guest, go to www.psychwithmike.com. Follow the show on Twitter @PsychWithMike or like the Facebook page @PsychWithMike. Now, here's Psych with Mike. Welcome into the Psych with Mike Library. This is Dr. Michael Mahan. I am here with Mr. Brett Newcomb.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
Doing well.
So, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.
For people who don't know, again, there'd be no reason to know.
Older than dirt. Yeah.
This is fall.
75.
Fall just started.
Yeah.
You have a birthday tomorrow. I had a birthday Monday.
Yeah. You're not 75.
I'm not 75. No.
So what are you?
I am the actual
you have
age.
Fingers and toes.
Yeah.
Don't know, do you?
No. This is an even year. 50.
You're
58.
You are sad.
I'm 58.
You are so sad.
But that's why I always go up in degrees of 5. So, I tell people I'm 60.
You always complicate things that don't need to be complicated. There's a date, like a birth certificate date. I was born in 1952.
Then you have to do math.
Every year just add one to the one you had last year.
Math is hard.
Uh-huh.
And remembering what that age is, I don't know.
Or you can count backwards from your life expectancy table. I'm 9.
I definitely don't want to do that.
Okay.
But anyway, yes. So I'm 58. Yeah. So I'm 58. And I've been married 35 years.
My incredible accomplishment for you.
My anniversary is the day before my birthday. Yeah, there's a whole story. You don't want to hear the story.
I know your wife.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear this story.
No, the story was for me, but or about me. I was supposed to pick a date to get married,
and being
I couldn't even
clever
do that
with
right.
numbers.
Yeah. No, I wanted to get married on my birthday, but then that was a Saturday in 1987,
and they didn't do marriages.
The Catholic
on
Church
Saturday.
wouldn't marry you in night.
Well,
because
that was your first
of services. Mistake. Yeah, so we ended up getting married on a Friday. Yeah, so it was.
Tisk.
Yeah. But I figured I'd never forget my anniversary, which is true. I've never forgotten my anniversary. But then your anniversary and your birthday, I wouldn't recommend it to people.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. So do you feel your age? People always ask, do you feel your age?
No.
Yeah. I don't know how you would do that. I guess if you were.
Usually that implies that you feel old and decrepit.
Yes,
and unable to function.
If you're 58 and you
feel your age, like, I hurt here and I hurt here. No, I don't feel any of that.
Yeah, I don't feel that either.
Yeah.
And while I will not say that I feel the same way as I felt when I was 20, I'm nowhere near as impulsive or arrogant as I was in my 20s. But physically, I don't feel old.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah.
I hope it continues.
Yeah.
You may wake up one day and all of a sudden the weight of the universe will be on your head. Yeah.
Yeah. It could all go downhill.
It will.
It will.
Yeah. If
Well,
you
don't
live long
say that.
enough. Just like prostate cancer. If you live long enough, you'll be having that conversation with your urologist.
Yeah. Sooner or later. So, I don't know if this is a thing that you ever dealt with. The only time that I've ever actually, there's 2 times. 2 times that I've actually done expert witness testimony in court. The 2 issues that I've done that for are parental alienation and sexual abuse. Those are the only 2 times that I've ever done that. And the number of clients that I've dealt with who have faced this issue of parental alienation is surprising.
Well, it's a term I think that wasn't even used until 1985.
Oh, is that when?
That's when the guy labeled it. Of course, we've had this conversation before that everything is a rehash with a new name.
Right.
But I remember practicing in 1985 and having some cases involving court situations that I didn't have to attend court, but the families were involved in court around this issue. And it was not a legally usable issue in the state of Missouri at that time in 1985, but it was in Florida. So they were quoting all these things from court cases in Florida, but the court of Missouri said that's not applicable here.
Yeah.
You don't have that as a foundation for your argument. So then they had to make the argument that they wanted to make about the way the alienating parent was alienating the child. But the courts in Missouri were, at that time, extremely conservative about making those determinations or making decisions in response to those arguments. Over time, a lot of that has evolved. I don't know today if Missouri accepts that as an arguable foundation for a lawsuit.
They're not keen on it.
No, but it's a difficult thing. So rather than talk about the legalities of parent alienation syndrome, I'd rather talk about what I have had a million conversations with families about through the years, and that is when two people who supposedly fall in love, get married, build a life, and have a family together, and something happens to sever those connections and end those relationships when there are children. It often occurs that those children become used as weapons, either to send messages to somebody else or to make somebody else miserable through the manipulation of the child, their attitude, their behavior, their script.
And let's say that what we're talking about, though, on the spectrum is pretty extreme, right? So a lot of parents, when they break up, are going to, maybe even inadvertently, send messages to the child that the other parent is no good, and
absolutely
tell your dad that I said,
Well,
and
but again, you get into that, and that's where you have counseling conversations with the adults. How can we both say we love the children, we want what's best for the children, we will keep our contaminants as far away from the children as we can? I remember taking my young child to elementary school one day to drop him off, and waiting for him to get out of the car, I was listening to a conversation with a father who was dropping off his 6th grade daughter, and she said, "Dad, can I have some money for lunch?" And he went into this explosive distress about,
I pay your mom
money for lunch money. You're supposed to get lunch money from her. I can't give you any money, or I don't, whatever. And the girl just started crying, and she was hungry. She wanted to know that she had lunch today. She didn't want to know, well, did mom spend the money on my tennis shoes, for TV, or for a date, or that's all adult stuff. And you need to keep that as far from the kids' experience as you can, is what I absolutely and firmly believe. So when I'm dealing with those families, I want to advocate for that. If you want to work with me, part of what we want to do is try to find ways to contain those reactions and resolve them among adults. It doesn't always happen.
You're absolutely right. And my reaction, because I've had clients give me that story, that exact story, in therapy, and what I say to them is, does your sixth grade daughter have a bank account? And the guy says no. I'm like, why not? Well, she doesn't understand money. I'm like, well, then why are you having that conversation with her?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't think that she can sign a legal contract...
It's not a think process, Michael. It's an emotional flooding. The guy flooded because he pays his child support, and the wife is supposed to provide this for the child. And depending on the age of the child, again, you have to calculate this too, at a certain point, usually in early adolescence, 13, 14, 15, the child becomes a player in their own right. They recognize that each of the adults have agendas and scripts, and they start to manipulate those agendas for their particular reason, whatever it is. So maybe she just wanted some cash to buy cigarettes with. I don't know, what she would have wanted. But I know she caught her dad in a public moment, in a got-to-go right now moment, and said, "Can I have cash?" And he flooded with all of his woundedness and hurt from whatever happened in his relationship with his ex-wife, and he vomited on his child in public. And then the child started crying. So it was, because I don't know those people, and I don't know the background, was the child crying as a manipulative behavior to gain advantage of some way? Like say, okay, it's Friday, if I'm going to Dad's tonight, then maybe he'll take me out to dinner or a movie because he upset me this morning. And I mean, who knows what they think about it. But what I know and what I heard in all thousands of conversations is, my ex-wife is a bitch. She's turning my children against me. I didn't do anything wrong, especially if you have a boy, 12, 13-year-old boy, who wants to protect his mother. And he sees what she's struggling with the two of them at home alone, and dad's not here, or dad has a new wife, or dad is on business trips all the time, and he's in Las Vegas this week and New York next week, and we're just here in Bumstruck, Missouri. And we don't ever get to go anywhere. We can't even go to the movies.
Right.
So blame your dad, because he lied, he cheated, he was a dirty son of a gun.
And one of the things that I repeatedly tell clients in therapy is that as far as you as a parent or your child is concerned, the parent that is most willing to demonstrate unconditional love for the child is the one who's going to get treated the worst. Because if a parent is putting conditions on the availability of love, then the child is going to play to that, because they know they're secure in the knowledge that the other parent's going to accept them no matter what. And that's not fair, and it's not
But life
good.
is not fair.
Exactly. But you just have to accept that as the price of being a parent, that child is going to do that. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't try and conduct yourself in a way that sets boundaries for the child and for the other parent, but that's just a reality of life.
It's hard to hear that your child that you love and nurtured and invested in raising, who's now 19 or 20 or 30, is still having antagonism against you because of messaging that he got from your ex-wife.
Well, and it's even harder because, we're living in a world where we would like to tell people that everybody loves the child. The parents are both in their own way interested in the well-being of the child. That's not always necessarily true.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Yeah.
And so if you're a parent who is invested in the well-being of that child and the other parent isn't, that's an unfortunate position.
Well, and then a corollary to that is when there's an additional marriage, a subsequent marriage, and a new adult gets brought into the mix who has opinions about how to parent your child, your son, your daughter, have rules, and then the child, being 12 to 14, says, you're not my dad, you can't tell me to take a shower, you can't tell me I can't spend my allowance on a BB gun. And then they call you and say, Dad, this guy's cussing me out, he's threatening me, he wants to hit me, you need to protect me, and then you muscle up and go over there and you get arrested.
Yep.
It just is a dirty, dirty situation.
So this is something that I tell clients all the time, and I want to see if you agree with this. I tell clients that any responsible adult that's going to be in charge of the child should be recognized as a co-parent.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, and has to have the full authority of that from all the other adults. If you come into a situation, you marry somebody who's got kids, and then you say, oh, no, that's not my job, I don't parent that child, that's a horrible, horrible, horrible situation, both for you in that relationship with that other parent, but also for the child.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
But it is another bone of contention among the adults, which the children, it's like a loose tooth. You keep wiggling it. The children wiggle that tooth.
Absolutely.
What are the adults going to do when I push this button?
Well, and so then the parents come in and they say to me, well, the child's wiggling the tooth. And I'm like, look, if you give a candy to a baby and the baby eats a candy, I don't blame the baby.
Yeah.
Right. The child is just acting in their own self-interest. I get that. And if you want to bring the child in to talk to me, I will try and help put boundaries around the child's behavior if you're willing to enforce those. But that's what I would expect the child to do. You're an adult.
Yeah.
I expect more from you because you have the capacity for abstract thought. You have the ability to do different.
So the client comes in and they hear that from you. And they say, why am I paying you money? You're not on my side.
then they go somewhere else.
Well, but the argument about, are you on my side? I'm not on your side.
I'm not on anybody. I'm on the side
of the child.
Or good therapy.
Yeah. I'm on the side of trying to find a less pain-filled journey for you if we can discuss these things. Is it possible for you to see this differently? Is it possible for you to use terminology differently, to understand what's going on differently?
I really like the language that you just used there about the less pain-filled journey, and I want to talk more about that. Let's go to our break, and then when we come back on the other side, I'm going to ask you a question.
All right.
Hey everybody, Dr. Michael Mahan here from Psych with Mike, and I couldn't be more excited to talk to you about Athletic Greens, which is a new sponsor we have here on the show. I started taking Athletic Greens, watching some YouTube videos, and doing my own research. I wanted to add something to my daily workout program to give me some energy and to support gut health. And that was the one thing that kept coming up again and again with Athletic Greens, is the guy who started the company did a bunch of research because he was having some gut health issues that he couldn't get any resolution for. He developed Athletic Greens, and it's just exploded from there. So it's 75 superfoods, vitamins, minerals, probiotics, whole food sources that's all in one daily scoop. You put it in 8 or 12 ounces of water, you shake it up, and you drink it. The taste is very, very drinkable. I actually enjoy it, and I have been using it, and my energy levels have just been through the roof. I really like Athletic Greens because of some of the sustainability things that they do. So they buy carbon credits, and to help protect the rainforest, which is something that I really like. But if you order Athletic Greens in your subscription, you're going to also get a year's supply of their vitamin D supplementation and 5 free travel packs. And that vitamin D is so important during those winter months when we're not getting enough sunlight. We've talked about how that decreases your mood and increases depression, and that can be a real deal changer. So you go to athleticgreens.com/emerging. That's athleticgreens.com/EMERGING. That's the Psych with Mike promo, and you're going to get that additional vitamin D support for a year and 5 free travel packs. So take control of your own health today. And as always, if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.
Okay, we're back. And so, again, I really like that language that you used about the less pain-filled journey. So when a client shows up and they've gone through this, they've been the victim of parental alienation, which I believe 100% is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so now this child is irrationally and just 100% against this parent, and the parent has only tried to love this child. I think that's a horrible place for that parent to be. So how do we try and help them walk through life in a less pain-filled way? Because how can there be anything worse than that? Your child is alive and won't have anything to do with you.
So, again, you have to deal with reality. One of my pet sayings to people has always been, man is not a rational animal, he's a rationalizing animal. So you're looking at a situation where life has done you wrong. You've been hurt, you're wounded in your marriage, in your parenting, in your relationship with your children, whatever that might be. And you complain that it's not fair, that it sucks, that I was done wrong. Well, okay, so let's take as a given that that's all true. How can you go forward being the you that you want to be, causing minimal damage to the rest of the universe and minimal pain to yourself? How do you perceive that reality and look in the mirror and say, I'm at peace with myself, the father that I am, the parent that I am, the ex-husband that I am. I'm behaving the way I feel is right for me to behave. I have no control over what my ex-wife or my son or daughter does with that. I only have control over what I present to the universe. So we have to frame it that way so that they can begin to look at it not as it's unfair or they're screwing me, but I have a role, I have a path to walk through these raindrops because it's going to storm.
So if the client then says, okay, well, but I can't live. I can't live in a world where this is my reality.
So you're going to kill yourself? You can. You have to. Life sucks. Life is not fair. Everybody gets hurt. The cost of loving somebody is that you're going to get hurt.
I like that. Yeah, I like that.
That's a given. I don't care how pure your love is. You're going to get hurt if you love somebody. Hopefully, also, you get incredible blessings.
Right.
Positive experiences. But there's baggage.
So are you going to insulate yourself from love to not get hurt, but then you're never going to have love?
You can try that, but then you're going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So then let's look at your quality of life. Let's look at how you spend your time, where you get nurtured. Are there other options for nurturing you that you're not making use of? Is there a way to avoid these wounded issues, these topics? You keep bringing up old wounds, and they bring out a litany of, when my kid was 10, this happened. When my kid was 12, this happened. And one summer trip, we did this, and the kid didn't go. And there's always, you can bring that up and rehash it and open those wounds. I call it kicking the turd.
Yeah.
It crusts over, it stops stinking. If you kick it, it opens it up, it starts stinking again.
Right.
So why are you doing that?
Okay,
what are you getting out of that? What's the payoff?
But so then, if I would say, as a therapist, that an alternative perspective would be, well, bring me those memories and let's use those as a way of constructing your memory of your relationship with this child, and hold on to those stories, but don't then go the next step into saying, okay, well, but then this other thing happened and now I can't.
I don't think we're saying anything different. I think we're talking about dancing the dance. Let's start the music. Let's bring it on the table.
So you're not saying that the memories, to reject the memories.
No.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I'm saying you quit developing an emotional reaction of pain and distress and anger, if you can, when those memories occur.
And the kick and the turd thing, that's kind of the thing that I'm used to you saying is, don't take the garbage out of the pail and rub it on yourself, because you used to tell that's a story that you used to use in graduate school, is you take the garbage,
I'm old enough now that I've forgotten,
to the curb, right, and get rid of it. If you keep it in the garage and dump it out on the floor and then roll
like
around,
a dog,
yeah,
because then you carry the stench,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no benefit in that.
So the point there is you have to find an analogy and a language that speaks to your client, and not as a heavily parental authority figure. I'm telling you, you must put that down.
Right.
But to say, all right, let's explore what you do with this, how you experience this. Is there a different way to frame it, to put the words to it, to massage the emotions that come? What's that all about? Well, it's about woundedness. Well, it's about rejection. It's about loss. It's about grief. Well, let's do some grief work. Let's try to position you so that these wounds don't continue to open and you continue to and poison the relationships. I mean, you as a father in a situation like that, you have to continue to invite. You say, I would like to have a connection with you. Are you available? I say, no, go away. Leave me alone. You have to go away. Is that hurt? Yes. You go grieve somewhere else. You go to somebody that holds you. You cry and you say, I'm really torn. I'm really hurt. I'm powerless. And when you can't stand anymore, you go back and say, I would like to have a relationship with you. Is that possible at this point? Is there something you need from me that you can articulate that I can try to give you, that we can make progress? And you may get rejected all of your life. You can't fix it.
Right. And the place where I see people get is that when they have this experience of trying to reconcile, they're very keen to want to rationalize and justify why it is that they were a good parent. I don't think that is beneficial.
No, it's not at all, because it's an unfair life is not fair. You're communicating to a 7-year-old child a complex set of behavioral issues and emotional floodings, explaining why you and the child's mother don't get along, or you and the child's father don't get along. And then you're attributing blame and responsibility. Well, your father did this or that or the other, and left us on our own. What's the child going to do with that? How are they going to understand it? They don't have the experience of life, they don't have the perspective, and they also are in a subservient power slot. And they want to have a relationship with their other parent, to which they're entitled.
Which may be, it may be their entire livelihood. Like, they may get all of their financial support and all this other stuff. Because if a parent is engaged in alienation, they're going to try and not only isolate the child, but also create dependence within the child.
Or buy their affection. I'll buy you a pony. I'll buy you a car. I'll buy you a trip to Europe, and your mother won't.
One of the things that I tell my clients is that you have to recognize that your child is about as emotionally mature as they were the point at which the alienation began. So it's like when we talk about substance abuse, that people who are substance abusers, their emotional development becomes arrested when they start using drugs. The same thing's true in this situation. That child, and even if they have other relationships where they may seem more emotionally mature, when they interact with you, they regress to the point where that alienation began. And so the child may be 35 years old, but when they talk to you, they may be emotionally 7.
So, same conversation, different approach angle, different way to view it. I get a client that comes in who's 52 years old, and he spends weeks talking about how he was wounded as a child when his parents got a divorce when he was 13 or 14, and how bad his 14, 15, 16-year-old life was, and how bad life has been because his 14, 15, 16-year-old was so miserable. His entire life has been destroyed. And I say to this person, you're 52 years old. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? You're going to spend the rest of your life looking at your navel, complaining about those events, or do you want to be happy? Do you want to make relationships that nurture and satisfy you? Well, you have an option here. You can continue to pick at these wounds to kick the turd, or you can grow up and redefine your perspective and build a life that you want to have and relationships that you want to have in them.
And when you say that to a client, do you?
Well, sometimes they say you don't know what.
That's what I was going to say. Is that something that they can hear? Because I think that
I don't know. Don't know till you try. I lay it out there and invite them.
There are a lot of things where I feel pretty adept at and confident in pushing. This is a callus that I feel like. So that's
one of the places where we disagree.
Okay.
I don't like to push aggressively the way I think you're willing to do. What I generally do is retreat and say, okay, obviously I'm not understanding what you need me to understand. I'm not hearing what you need me to hear. I'm missing the target. So let's talk it through again. Tell me where it hurts. Tell me what the wound looks like to you. What are the things that we can do to try to heal that wound?
So just for people who could be listening to this, these are two different approaches that we take to what people call lean into the resistance.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And so my approach to that would be to take ownership of the inadequacy of my hearing or my understanding. If you're tongue-tied and frustrated with me because I just don't get it, then I want to recognize that you're tongue-tied and frustrated with me, that I'm not getting it, and ask you, how can I get it? How can you help me get it? Can you tell me again in a different way? And do accurate, empathic, reflective listening.
And you're not saying that because you think you really don't get
I'm not
it. You're
saying that as manipulation.
Because
I'm saying that as an invitation.
They keep going over the information.
If you keep banging your head against the wall.
Hopefully they're going to hear themselves say something that's going to be beneficial for them.
Which is the only thing that they're going to hear that's going to be beneficial.
Right.
They're not going to hear me.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm the critical parent. The therapy is about reparenting yourself. You got to get to a place where you can change those interior scripts and monologues.
So let's go back to, I just want to put a fine point on this. The article that'll be up here has 8 points, which we don't need to go over. What we would say.
We recommend people look at them.
But I was going to say, but I would recommend you look at these because these are the things that are recognized by the court. That if a person, a diagnostician,
behaves in these ways.
Yes. Yeah. These are compliant with what the diagnosis would be able
in states that allow that to be made. Argument.
Yeah. I think all 50 states now recognize this. The last time, and if they don't officially recognize it, it is pretty ubiquitously talked about in the legal journals, because when I prep myself for this, I go to the law library, which lawyers hate, but I have access to as a professor, you have access to as a former professor. And I get all of this information and I take it and I say, this is a real thing. And then people say, well, who do you think you are? I'm not trying to be an attorney. I'm just saying this is the stuff that's written in the, and all of the language in those articles says that if states don't recognize this, that they should, because it is legal precedent. And so,
but see, what's legal precedent in Florida is not legal precedent in Missouri. If it's a federal case and in federal law, yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
but
yeah,
if it's
yeah.
a state law
Gotcha.
about child custody arrangements, I mean, like the state of Missouri did change after 1985 to where the state law now requires a judge looking at a divorce situation where children are involved to prefer 50-50 custody, as opposed to saying, well, because a lot of times in argument situations, one spouse will say to the other, I will take your kids away from you and you will never see them. That's not legally possible in this state unless there is a justifiable, provable reason that the judge then says, oh my God, we're going to protect these children.
Right.
Otherwise, they have to say, well, you got to split them. Split them in time. 3 days at your house, 3 days at your house. Which, I mean, it's like the story from the Bible about Solomon with the baby.
Yeah.
We're going to split the baby, which to me can be really destructive. I'm not saying that's a good solution, but I'm saying that the law changed in Missouri.
Although I do believe that children are very resilient. I believe that they can function in two very disparate systems.
Yeah.
Now, I would prefer the systems.
These are the rules in our house.
Right.
These are the rules in Mom's house. You've got to shift gears.
And what I encourage my clients is to try and unify those rules as much as possible. I think that's better, but kids are able to operate in two very different systems. I would encourage, if that's the case, that at least one of those systems be taking those kids to therapy so they can process the ambiguity of that.
But you get in all the legalities, though, about, okay, so I'm paying you to see my daughter, who's 13, who's struggling with something in life. And then somebody comes rolling in and says, I'm this girl's dad.
I know.
And I want to know the notes.
Want your
Talk
records.
to me.
I know. Yeah. I know.
And I want to have some input because I don't trust the mom.
I know.
So those are all complications
and
that a practicing therapist has to be equipped to deal with.
And nobody is going to tell you what the right answer is as a therapist.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to make a decision. So if you don't want to be in that ambiguity, don't do that work. Right?
Don't take that risk.
Because you know that that's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I know it's going to happen.
But if you're willing to do it, then as a therapist...
Well, you have to know what your answer is going to be.
Exactly. You have to develop a process and then stick to your process. So when you go to court, you say, this is my process, it's written down, and this is what I do, and then the court's going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
But if you go, I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, court's going to eat you up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to think about it, and if your answer is to the dad...
good ethical training.
Yeah.
You have to know what the law requires.
Right.
And then you have to behave in accordance with those junctures.
I mean, you can say to the dad, I'm not going to make my notes available to you. I don't believe that would be good for my client. And you can defend yourself in court. And so what I would do is, if that's going to be your answer...
you have to prepare your notes.
You have to prepare your notes.
To that argument.
I would get supervision. Yeah. I would document that supervision.
Absolutely.
That somebody else said, I think this is a good idea. Maybe even get a couple of supervisors to say that. And then when you go to court, then you say, this is my process. It's well thought out in advance. I didn't make it up the day that this dad asked for the records. I got supervision. And then you're going to be very well protected legally.
Yeah. And you got to recognize at that moment in time, it's about defending yourself and your professionalism. It's not about being the therapist for the child.
That's right. That's right. And that can be hard for people who say, who say, I just want to be the best therapist for my child. Well, being a therapist at all is being the best therapist for that child at that point. Yeah. Yeah. So if you guys have any questions about this issue, this is a really, really heavy issue. It is so hard. My heart bleeds for clients that I have who come in and want to talk about this, but it's a real thing. And so if you have any questions about that, please send those to psychwithmike.com. We would love it if you would go on the internets and find us on the YouTubes and Psych with Mike, and then subscribe to the show. If you would go to Apple Podcasts, find us, leave us a review and a rating. That would be super helpful for other people to find the show. The music that appears in Psych with Mike is written and performed by Mr. Benjamin DeClue, and if it's Friday, it's Psych with Mike.